When we talk about the greatest villains of all time, one name stands out: Darth Vader. It's not just because of his intimidating presence or that unforgettable voice, but also because of the depth of his story, the inner conflict that defines him, and his key role in the Star Wars saga. Today, we're going to explore what makes Darth Vader so memorable and how he became one of the most iconic characters in film history. Darth Vader's story doesn't start with him in a black suit, breathing heavily. His journey goes all the way back to his childhood as Anakin Skywalker, a slave boy on Tatooine with incredible potential. He was seen as the chosen one, the one who would bring balance to the Force. What makes him so interesting as a villain is that his fall is not simple. It's a tragedy that plays out over the prequels. Anakin starts with noble goals and a kind heart, but his fear of losing the people he loves and his growing desperation pull him toward the dark side. He's caught in a web of manipulation by Emperor Palpatine, who plays on his deepest fears, especially the fear of losing Padme, the woman he loves. The heartbreaking part is that Anakin believes joining the dark side is the only way to save her, but in doing so, he loses everything. This is where Darth Vader is born, not as a typical villain, but as a broken man who has been pushed to the limit. His transformation is a reminder of how even the best intentions can be twisted by fear and anger, and how absolute power can destroy what makes us human. One of the most iconic aspects of Darth Vader is his imposing presence. From the very first moment we see him in A New Hope, walking through the smoke surrounded by stormtroopers, we know we're looking at a terrifying villain. His black armor, his lair, and the helmet that covers his face make him look more like a machine than a man. He's more than just a person. He's a symbol of evil and oppression. His design wasn't accidental. George Lucas and the creative team wanted Darth Vader to be visually unforgettable. His helmet, inspired by samurai warriors, and the breathing mask, inspired by scuba gear, create a silhouette that's instantly recognizable. And it's not just about the visuals. The sound design also plays a huge role. Darth Vader's breathing is probably one of the most recognizable sounds in movie history. Every time you hear that, you know something bad is about to happen. He doesn't even need to speak, just his presence is enough to send chills down your spine. Another reason Darth Vader is more than just a villain is the inner conflict he carries. Beneath the armor, under that cold, intimidating helmet, lies Anakin Skywalker. Throughout the original trilogy, especially in Return of the Jedi, we see that not all is lost within him. Luke Skywalker, his son, believes that there is still good left in him, despite all the terrible things he has done. This internal struggle is what makes Vader such a fascinating character. Unlike other villains who just want to rule the world or create chaos, he is trapped in a personal battle between good and evil. He is someone who was once a hero, but was consumed by his own mistakes and decisions. But that small spark of hope, the possibility of redemption, is what sets him apart. Luke awakens the light in Vader, reminding him of who he once was, giving him a reason to betray the Emperor. This conflict isn't something we see in many villains. It's what makes Vader a legendary character, someone who is both terrifying and tragic. To fully appreciate how special Darth Vader is, let's compare him to other famous villains in film history. Take the Joker, for example, one of the most popular villains in comic books and films. The Joker represents chaos and unpredictability. He thrives on creating disorder and watching society fall apart. But unlike Darth Vader, the Joker has no real backstory that makes us sympathize with him or understand why he became who he is. He's a great villain because he's terrifying and chaotic, but he doesn't have that deep tragic arc, like Vader does. Or let's talk about Voldemort from the Harry Potter series. Voldemort, like Darth Vader, is a dark figure who seeks power and control. But while Voldemort is undoubtedly evil, he lacks the internal conflict that makes Vader stand out. Voldemort is consumed by his desire for immortality and dominance, but he never questions himself or feels the pull of light and goodness. He's a straight-up villain, whereas Darth Vader is more layered, because we know that he was once a good man who lost his way. This complexity makes Darth Vader far more interesting and relatable than other one-dimensional villains like Voldemort. Another example is Thanos from the Marvel Universe. Thanos is a powerful and intimidating villain with a clear goal: to balance the universe by wiping out half of all life. His motivations are interesting because, in his mind, he's doing the right thing. But at the end of the day, Thanos doesn't have that personal, emotional journey like Darth Vader. Thanos is convinced he's right from the start, whereas we watch Vader struggle, fall, and finally rise again through the love of his son. Darth Vader's redemption, his return to the light, is something that makes him more compelling than many of these other villains, who either stay evil or have no real depth to their stories. Another crucial element in the success of Darth Vader as a villain is his voice. And this is where the incredible contribution of James Earl Jones comes in. His deep, resonant voice gives Vader an authority and power that is absolutely chilling. In many scenes, we don't even need to see him to know that he's near. His voice, along with his mechanical breathing, is enough to create an aura of pure fear. It's interesting to think that originally, David Prowse, who physically played Vader in the movies, also recorded the lines, but his accent didn't give off the same sense of strength and threat that the character needed. That's when George Lucas decided to bring in James Earl Jones, and that decision changed everything. Without Jones's voice, Darth Vader wouldn't be the same. The famous line, "I am your father," wouldn't have had the same impact if it wasn't delivered with that deep, commanding voice. It's a perfect example of how the right voice can elevate a character to another level. What makes Darth Vader not just one of the greatest villains, but also one of the most complex characters in movie history is his redemption. After years as the Emperor's enforcer, spreading fear across the galaxy, his final act of sacrifice redeems him and brings him back to the hero he once was. Vader betrays the Emperor, saving his son Luke and destroying the Sith Lord, finishing the prophecy. It's a moment of personal and family redemption. This final act shows that despite everything he has done, Anakin Skywalker still exists inside Darth Vader. His love for his son is what finally sets him free from the dark side. This full character arc, from darkness to light, is what gives Vader a depth that few villains have. It's also a reminder of one of the central themes of Star Wars, that there is always hope, even in the darkest of places. What do you find most fascinating about Darth Vader? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more character analysis and Star Wars content, be sure to subscribe. And may the Force be with you.